Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. My name is Kimberly Swarty and I'm CAIR Maryland's Outreach Coordinator. On behalf of CAIR Maryland's office, I'd like to welcome you all to today's news conference, which was organized to officially kick off October as Statewide Bullying Prevention Month in the state of Maryland. Each year, our organization partners with the Governor's Office for this annual designation to raise awareness about the prevalence, harms, and consequences of bullying, and the need to promote respect and inclusion in all of our educational institutions. We want to thank Governor Moore and the GOCI for the commitment to ensuring that every child feels safe in schools. And with that, we're going to kick off this news conference with our first speaker, CAIR's Maryland Director, Zainab Chaudhry.
Hi, good evening. Zainab, Z-A-I-N-A-B, Chaudhry, C-H-A-U-D-R-Y. And thank you for joining us as we kick off Statewide Bullying Prevention Month. I want to acknowledge the Governor's Office on Community Initiatives and the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights and all of our interfaith partners who are here today to express our dedication to this important cause. Today we stand united in recognizing that bullying in any form is unacceptable. Our office sees the impact of it, unfortunately, all too frequently, and it affects our communities as a whole, not just within our schools, but also far beyond that as well. According to CAIR's research, over 50% of American Muslim youth experience bullying, and we know that that number is underreported because the vast majority of cases do not get reported. So it's our collective responsibility to take action and speak up, and to really build a community where every single student feels included, feels safe, and feels seen. And our goal this month is not just to raise awareness about bullying and the harms of it, but also to inspire action and to call on our school systems to also be more emphatic in providing a safe space for all of our children from diverse backgrounds who might feel uncomfortable or not seen or not valued within the school systems. We also urge community stakeholders to take an active role in this initiative, stand up and speak out and support one another and support our children so that together we can foster a culture of respect to help every child feel safe and valued. So thank you all for your commitment to this very vital cause, and let's work together this October and beyond to really truly help make Maryland a safe state for all of our communities. And again, I want to thank all of our community partners who are here today for their sharing their voices and representing their communities and talking about this important issue.
Thank you, Zainab. I want to welcome Reverend Walker from the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives to present the proclamation. You're on my right.
First, let me say on behalf of Governor Westmore and the Moore-Miller administration, thank you, Executive Director Chaudhry, and everyone here that's united here against this great scourge in our community of bullying. It's an honor to celebrate October as Anti-Bullying Month. And let me tell you briefly about my little story. I started elementary school 9 years after the Brown versus Board of Education decision. The Walker family and the Valentine family were the only two black families in our elementary school. And little did my parents and I know how much desegregating a school was going to impact my young life. I was called every unkind name you can think of, including the N-word, dirty skin, poopy, why don't you wash, nappy hair, all kinds of things, and Four Eyes. And the only thing I could change was Four Eyes. I would break my glasses faithfully because I knew it would take my parents a long time to replace them, but I'm nearsighted and have astigmatism, so everything a few feet away is blurry. The teacher wrote on a green chalkboard with yellow or white chalk, which seemed like miles away, and we sat in alphabetical order. So Walker sitting at the back of the room, as far from the chalkboard as possible. I couldn't see a thing. Little did I know when I broke my glasses that how it would impact me trying to alleviate one form of bullying, one pain in my life. Little did I know how that would cause another pain. It stifled my ability to read because letters like A and O and C and E and G and Y all looked the same, and my brain couldn't process them, and the words were all blurry. Now, it stopped people from calling me Four Eyes, but it wasn't until I was in 11th grade that I learned that I was reading at a 4th grade level. Here I was, a high school student athlete, applying for college, reading at an elementary school level. Fortunately, I had a great teacher who cared and worked with me to get beyond that. And I've dedicated my adult life to advocating for primary school students, K to 12, to stop the scourge of bullying, and that has been my commitment ever since. And so I'm proud to be here on behalf of Governor Moore and the entire administration to say we must put an end to bullying. And now I'd like to ask the Executive Director to come forward as we read this proclamation from Governor Wes Moore. The proclamation states, the State of Maryland proclamation from the Governor of the State of Maryland, Statewide Bullying Prevention Month, October 2024. Bullying occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, the internet, cell phones, and various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually. And whereas thousands of Maryland children and adolescents are affected by bullying annually, and targets of bullying are more likely to acquire physical, emotional, and learning problems, and students who are repeatedly bullied often fear activities like riding the bus, going to school, or attending community activities. And whereas children who are bullied are at greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, and children who witness bullying often feel less secure, more fearful, and intimidated. And whereas encouraging children to be more friendly and to foster more inclusive relationships creates healthier and happier environments to live, learn, and play. Now, therefore, I, Wes Moore, Governor of the State of Maryland, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as the Statewide Bullying Prevention Month in Maryland and call upon the people of our state to join this observance. And it's signed on this day by Wes Moore, Governor, Aruna Miller, Lieutenant Governor, and Susan Lee, Secretary of State.
Thank you so much, Reverend Walker. I'd like to now present our next speaker, Mr. Cleveland Horton, the Executive Director from the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights.
Good evening. Good evening. I'd also like to join on behalf of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights in sending a heartfelt thank you to Executive Director Chaudhry for this invitation to speak this evening. As the Executive Director of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, it is an honor to stand before you with CAIR and the Governor's Office on Community Initiatives as we recognize October as Maryland Statewide Bullying Prevention Month. This month serves as a crucial reminder of our collective responsibility to ensure that every individual in Maryland is safe from the harm that bullying can cause, whether in schools, workplaces, or our communities. Bullying in all of its forms, whether physical, verbal, or cyber, can have devastating effects on individuals' mental health, academic performance, and overall well-being. We know that bullying disproportionately impacts marginalized groups, including individuals from different racial, ethnic, and gender backgrounds, as well as those with disabilities. This is where the work of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights aligns so powerfully with this month's theme, as we are committed to ensuring that all Marylanders are treated with dignity and respect, free from discrimination, harassment, and intimidation. Prevention begins with education and awareness. It requires that we engage students, parents, teachers, employers, and community leaders in creating environments where empathy, inclusion, and diversity are prioritized. Through partnerships with schools, advocacy organizations, and local governments, we at the Commission are actively working to promote initiatives that raise awareness about bullying encourage reporting, and provide resources for both victims and bystanders. But we cannot do this alone. It takes the collaboration of every individual in our community to challenge the culture of silence that often surrounds bullying and to foster an environment where everyone feels safe to speak up and take action. So as we observe Bullying Prevention Month, I encourage each of us to reflect on the ways we can contribute to this effort, not just in October, but every day. Together, we can make Maryland a safer, more inclusive place for everyone and ensure that we leave no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Horton. I'd like to now invite Tiffany Fisher from the NAACP.
Good evening. We'd like to first thank CAIRS for inviting us here to this press conference and everyone else that is here. My name is Tiffany Fisher. I am one of the vice presidents for the Maryland State Conference NAACP, but I am also the president of Allegheny County NAACP. So just like my colleague here, I grew up in a very rural area. I was the only little black girl in my class from kindergarten to around 6th grade when I went to middle school, and experienced in the 80s and 90s, don't tell anybody, a lot of racism and bullying and name calling and hair pulling and literally having racial slurs sprayed on my locker during homecoming week. And so as I moved out into being a community leader and a parent of myself, I have 6 children and raised 13, I thought that we had done enough work to get past this. However, my children experienced having milk poured over top of them, having people throw soap at them, calling them racial slurs, making fun of their lips, their size, their hair. And because I'm also a proud parent of someone that belongs to the queer community, they were attacked. Because I also worked for many years in the disability world and have an aunt, JoJo, who I just adore, I saw how she was attacked. So this month and this day is powerful, but I hope we don't just talk about the word bullying. I hope that as we are spreading this information, as we are educating and calling on the schools, what we ask them is to teach is humanity. I really honestly believe in my heart that if we focus on that, if we actually stop and look past all the things that make us different and embrace them and just look at each other as human beings, the bullying can be stopped. But it has to start somewhere. We have to be able to have real conversations and tell stories generationally, the truth, own it, be accountable. And we need our teachers, we need our preachers, we need our student counselors, we need our student activists, we need MCCR, and we have a wonderful governor and our legislators to all join to make sure that we are having those conversations, that we are following through with not just the acknowledgement that bullying is an issue, but how we fix it so that our children do not have to repeat the same cycle that me and my brother here to the side have said we went through. So thank you again. We thank the governor for acknowledging this. We are excited to move forward and make sure that this is something that is a cause and not a moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for those moving remarks. I'd like to now invite our brother Anil Singh Ahuja and Arjan Singh Grover. Anil.
Hi everybody, my name is Anil Ahuja and I am a sophomore at the University of Maryland. I'm going to be completely honest with you all. Growing up, I never really got bullied. I always like to think that this was due to my undeniable charm or my dashing good looks, but in reality I think that I just got lucky. However, I have had a few instances here and there, and because they were so few and far between, they truly stuck out in my mind, and especially hurt at the time. Being a young Sikh in America, I was tossed some responsibilities without even realizing it. Wearing my turban on my head, I am representing my community wherever I go. What this means to me is that I am committed to helping others in need and treating everyone around me with this respect that they all deserve. Emphasized in our faith, in our teachings, we have an obligation to be someone to look to in times of distress. The reality is, though, that not everyone will see you the way you want to be seen. Wherever you go, there is a chance that you will encounter some bigotry. It's inevitable. There's always going to be someone who wants to put you down. This is often due to one's own insecurities, or if they just genuinely have nothing else better to do. Something that I've learned throughout the course of my life is that I actively avoid negativity. I do not like to surround myself with people who are negative because they have the capability of bringing my mood down. The harsh truth of the matter is that we have to know how to deal with negativity. It is so important that we are able to stand up for ourselves and others who are either afraid to or simply cannot. My advice to anyone seeking it is that if you find yourself getting bullied, try your best to educate your bully. The natural human response is to get angry, act irrationally. But if you keep your composure, if you try to have a civil conversation with your oppressor, you will ultimately be the bigger person. A lot of the times it can be hard to get through to them. But be patient. There have been situations where someone has made a snarky comment about the way I look. What I do is I ask them why they said what they said, and I explain what my articles of faith mean to me. Yes, there is a chance that I don't get through to them, but on those times where I do, I feel so fulfilled. Education breeds tolerance, which breeds acceptance. Acceptance turns into love. And we will be so much stronger as a community if we act with love. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Arjun Grover. I'm a recent law school graduate and hopefully a practicing attorney soon. I was a blissfully ignorant and optimistic child. Growing up, whenever someone stared at me for too long or gave me a quizzical look, much like Anil, I thought it was because they'd never seen someone so handsome. Now, a lot has changed since then. I'm much more aware of people's intentions. Being a Sikh, I have learned that I not only need to be cognizant of my surroundings, but hyper aware of them. I was 5 years old when the senseless tragedy of 9/11 happened. I was in my first weeks of school. And the thing I remember hearing from my classmates the most at that time was, "My mommy and daddy want me to stay away from you." Now, I'm sure those aren't the insights those parents expected their children to share with me, but you could see where the fear came from. You could see where the ignorance came from. Overnight, the Sikh turban, a crown for Sikh men, became associated with terror. It was a false narrative perpetrated by the media, which the Sikhs took the brunt of for wearing their articles of faith with pride. I want to thank those parents who actively fought against that narrative, and the few friends I had who were able to see past those prejudices that others won't. They took the time to learn who I was and what I stood for. But to this day, Sikhs are still often singled out, misunderstood, and harassed in schools, in the workplace, and in everyday life. This is no longer just a Sikh issue. It's a human issue. Because regardless of anyone's background, their race, their religion, if they feel unwelcome in everyday places where they're expected to be, then we are failing as a society. Now, if me being at this press conference wasn't evident enough that I've always been a little bit extroverted, I always took it upon myself to teach people about Sikhism. I told them that the Sikh religion stands for the principles of equality and justice for all. The Sikh religion has always stood up to its bullies and has always stood with those who can't stand for themselves and will continue to stand. That's why I support these very, very important anti-bullying initiatives, and I'm so happy that October is being declared Anti-Bullying Month in the state of Maryland. Every child deserves a chance to grow, to thrive, and to contribute to their community without being hindered by prejudice or discrimination. 5-year-old Arjun could have definitely benefited from knowing what bullying was, and 5-year-old Arjun's classmates definitely could have benefited from knowing that their actions were bullying. I foster no ill will to anyone who was ever ignorant of my faith and let that ignorance foster into bullying. But I hope we can teach the next generation that they cannot just follow false narratives, that you never put someone down just because of fear or ignorance. I want to express my deepest gratitude to the Maryland Governor's Office and to CAIR, not only for putting this event on, but for their continued dedication to creating a safer and brighter future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anil and Arjan. I would like to now introduce Nikki Morse. They are from Jewish Voice for Peace from Baltimore.
Thank you, and Shalom Aleichem, which is Yiddish for peace be upon you. I'm really grateful to be here and part of this interfaith conversation and community conversation about bullying, which, as has been noted, is related to other forms of discrimination and harm. Jewish Voice for Peace is committed to anti-racism, to queer liberation, and to solidarity with Palestinian liberation. Many members of Jewish Voice for Peace, including myself, are LGBTQ, and we are intimately familiar with the fact that queer and trans youth are about twice as likely to face bullying as their peers. And then, of course, we also know the harms of anti-Semitism. For me, my first encounter with anti-Semitism was on the playground as a school child. Anti-Semitism is discrimination against Jews based on their identity as Jews, and anti-Semitism is historically specific and varies by context. It has changed over the centuries, and it's important to understand what anti-Semitism is today. In our current moment, white nationalist violence targets Jews and many other communities, and it's a serious concern for our entire society. If we're going to fight anti-Semitism, we need to be very clear about what it is and what it isn't. As an anti-Zionist Jew, I can state unequivocally that criticizing the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic, and also that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. By anti-Zionism, I mean opposition to a Jewish supremacist state in historic Palestine that depends upon ethnic cleansing to maintain a Jewish majority, a state that treats people differently based on their status as Jews or non-Jews. Many people around the world are anti-Zionists, including many Jews, and anti-Zionist Jews have been part of Jewish communities for centuries. Conflating anti-Zionism, which is a principled political position, with anti-Semitism makes it harder to fight actual anti-Semitism, and it also fuels bullying, discrimination, and repression, especially against Palestinians, Muslims, and Arabs. In the midst of a genocide that has gone on for almost a year, and amid severe repression of voices critical of that genocide, it's more important than ever that we fight anti-Semitism through an anti-racist approach. And for anyone interested in learning more, I would recommend Parseo's curriculum on fighting anti-Semitism through a framework of collective liberation. So in the spirit of collective liberation, I'm honored to have the opportunity to join others here in opposing bullying, bigotry, and discrimination, because none of us are free until all of us are free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I'd like to introduce our last speakers, which is Leon and her father. Leon is a student from Baltimore County Public Schools.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I just want to point out how bringing awareness to bullying really does make a difference to students. I was bullied myself. I was bullied in middle school. As a Muslim, dealing with the small remarks that students make, thinking that they're funny and that it's, entertaining to joke about Islam and being Muslim, dealing with that as a new hijabi was really hard for me. I had my hijab pulled off 2 times when I was in 8th grade, both by boys. It was really hard for me to go through. I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel safe anymore even with people that I knew for a long time. I just wasn't safe. I was scared. I cried. The first person that I called was my mom. She helped me through it. She contacted CAIR. They helped me through it, which I'm really grateful for, and I'm happy that they were able to be there for me. My teacher at the time, she didn't really help me in any kind of way. She kind of just told me that, oh, he didn't know. and just dismissed the whole situation. So I was very disappointed and, of course, upset. My mom took it, dealt with it with the principal, and CAIR dealt with it. They had a slideshow that they had the whole school go through and just taught them about Islam and the importance of hijab. And I'm really grateful for that because it's really nice to see people that I know and people that I'm going to school with being educated on my religion, and I'm really happy about that. But I know lots of people who have been bullied, and it's really sad to see where it takes them. It always leads them to a dark place. They distance themselves from people, and you can just see a change in how they act. And I feel like, bringing awareness just gives them kind of a safe space to, gives them people to be safe around when you talk to them, and just bringing awareness. Bullying isn't okay. Bullying isn't good for people. It makes them unsafe. It makes them do things that isn't good. Like harming themselves, harming others. Being bullied, it's a sensitive topic for me because when I was bullied, I didn't know what to do, where to go, who to talk to. And like I said, when going to my mom really did help me, and she really, made me feel comfortable talking about it. I went a recent situation with a teacher at my school. He was teaching Islamophobic stuff to the students, to my friends, classmates, my sister's friends, and I approached him because I felt like I was strong enough and that I should stand up for the Muslims in my school, for my community. I approached him and I told my mom about it. I talked to a few teachers about it, took it to CAIR. And I'm just glad that I can make some sort of difference in my community, in my school. Thank
you. I'm new to this, but so I'm third generation Sunni Muslim, so I grew up in Islam at such a young age. I have an Arabic name, and it's interesting because I didn't accept that until I got much older. Growing up in Baltimore City and having a last name like mine, I just went through all kinds of issues. However, to address the current issue, when my stepdaughter came home with this issue of misinformation that was being taught at Woodlawn High School here in Maryland, I was a little taken aback because I was shocked, especially because we have such a large Muslim community in the area. It was just like, whoa, like they could have just reached out. But especially because how far we come as a country as well. It just really saddens me that we are taking steps in the wrong direction. I just hope that this courageous act of my stepdaughter here, by making this decision to refuse to accept this blatant act of misrepresentation of Islam, will encourage people in the future to do the proper research on Islam, but furthermore on all people's belief, and in the effort to better us all in unity, as misunderstanding can lead to many other things, including bullying in the school system and outside the school system. I used to work in the school system, and one of the biggest things I used to teach always was, if the community doesn't warm the children will burn down the village. And it's a couple different ways people would take that, but I think that that's a really important saying. That's it.
Thank you so much to all of our amazing speakers and for coming out to this interfaith event. That concludes our press conference. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I felt as I was listening to Leonie, I want to make sure I'm saying your name. Leanne. I felt compelled, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just step right in front of the podium for me real quick. Right. I felt like we needed to send a strong message to make sure that all of the Leannes of the world understand that they are protected. And I know I speak for the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. I'm sure I speak for the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives, that you always have a friend and a partner in our agencies, right? And I would like for us all, if we could just extend our hand towards Leanne, right? And as we extend our hands, this is a hand of protection, this is a hand of love, and as Tiffany said, this is a hand of humanity. So for everybody that is watching, and understand that we hear you, and we see you, and we are here for you, okay? Thank you for being so brave to step up.